Accessing.
When TV and radio collide.
Love it.
Wow. This is what you get. You're listening to JJ and Alex. Presented by G2G Bars.
Don't touch that dial.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Alex Curie, Jeremiah Jensen. Man, lots going on today. We've got a lot of guests lined up, and that's a testament of how busy this time of year is, and a lot going on across the entirety of the local sports scene here in the state of Utah and beyond. So we're excited about this one. Joining us on the program right now is Josh Grant, former University of Utah great on the basketball court, and certainly one of these guys that we've been dipping into this entire time after the firing of Craig Smith and what was next for the University of Utah. Everybody crossing their fingers. I say everybody. I really do think it was everybody crossing their fingers.
No doubt.
That the Alex Jensen hire was going to happen. It did. He was officially introduced as a head coach of the University of Utah men's basketball team. And here we are. It's finally real. Josh Grant joining us on the program. Josh, what were your thoughts on Alex Jensen, the hire that everybody was waiting for from an alumni perspective, a guy who, of course, is very, very close to the program still. What did you think about the hire?
Well, you can feel it, can't you? I mean, there's a different air floating about for anybody who's been a Utah fan for a long time, and it's palpable. You can feel it no matter where you are, at church or just walking down the street or certainly up on campus. But when you associate with some of the other alums, and everybody is excited. I don't think anybody's angry about this, which that doesn't happen very often. So that speaks volumes for Alex. It speaks volumes for what people think of him as a human being. And I'm certainly one of them. I told him at that press conference, man, I'm so happy that you are here. And I think a lot of people would be saying the same thing if they had that opportunity.
Yeah, I think there's so many great things about this hire. There's no question about that for a lot of different reasons. You were there on Monday. You had a chance to hear Alex speak. It was, obviously a great celebration, great production, but I'm sure that you were wanting to hear what Alex had to say, how he's going to answer those questions. What are some of the takeaways you had from what he said on Monday?
The thing I love most, and some people might take this in the wrong way, and they shouldn't, Alex is not a rah-rah guy. He's not like some of the past, quite honestly and bluntly, he's not like some of the coaches we've had over the last 20 years. He's not somebody that gets up there and starts getting fired up and trying to get you fired up at the halftime of a football game and just kind of yelling crazily into the microphone. He's a very thoughtful guy. And the thing that I love most is he comes across, and he said this, he is very sincere. And that's what he's all about, is sincerity and honesty, transparency, whatever you want to say. He's not somebody that's going to come in and just start blowing smoke up your skirt hoping that you'll believe him. He's just going to quietly go about his business, and he's going to show you what he's all about. And I think I think he showed that in the way that he answered these questions. He's very enthusiastic, but for him, he's so even-keeled that it doesn't come across, and I think it will come across when he's talking to kids, and he can tell them straight up, this is what we would like you to do if you can fit into this certain mold. And certainly if they can go recruit people who have that same type of thoughtfulness as a player, then I think the University of Utah is going to be doing just fine. And I think everybody will really start to love that honesty and that integrity that he brings.
I think that being in the position that you are, Josh, one of the things that happens is people they look at you and you're always going to be an ambassador for the program, right? I mean, and so when somebody approaches you and goes, man, what do we have to do to get this thing turned around? What's your answer? Because hiring Alex Jensen was a great start, but what are the things that he's got to do to make sure that this thing takes off under his tutelage?
I honestly think, and even some of the former players kind of disagree with me, I really think it's more about the type of person you bring in, much more than how much NIL money you have. And if you think back and you've got guys who are kind of thoughtful and they're kind of unique, they've been brought up right by their parents. They understand the value of being coached. They want to work hard. They want to win. It's not a selfish person. You look at Andre and Alex and Keith Van Horn and Noliak and all these guys that, are kind of headliners for they all kind of have that something special about them. And I think that because Alex is one of those, able to find and see and recognize those kind of players.
Let's try to reconnect with Josh.
Maybe we'll reconnect here. Yeah, we'll get back to him here. So, one of the interesting things about I think all this that's interesting. Right off the bat, goes I get people disagree with me, even the people who are former players.
I love that though.
It's got to be a combination of both, though, right?
They're having conversations. They want this to get better. They all realize that we all need to work together to get this program back to where it was supposed to be, and I think that. It's great that they're having those conversations, and the alumni want to fuel that and help it get big. And the next question I had for you, Josh, is about alumni. You're one of those alumni, and obviously this is a move, hiring a former alum, somebody who has ties to the program and to the past, but can also move this thing in the future is a big deal. But how important is it to reconnect with some of the alumni in this program? You'd have to tell me how you feel about that. Has this program and the athletic department done a good job with keeping the alumni involved in the program and close to the program?
Honestly, no, they haven't. They haven't really felt. And there's been a lot of arguments with former teammates and former colleagues or guys that played later or before me about what exactly is the expectation. I don't know that we really have an expectation. I just think that we provide an opportunity for the athletic department and the basketball team to kind of use the former players to either connect with more players, connect with fans. I mean, could you imagine if you won a prize and you could watch a game with, I don't know, pick your favorite player, with Andre Miller? It'd be kind of a fun experience. And if you could have Andre and anybody else who was an alum down on the floor and around about the team and things like that, I think it could just build a sense of family. And I think that new incoming players would then understand, we have something to live up to. And the former players are kind of looking at us and saying, okay, let's leave it all out there on the floor and let's play hard. And that, you're going to play smart and together. And that whole concept of team and family, I think Whittingham does a great job with that when you see former players down on the sideline at games. And it does just build a culture of trust and family and teamwork. And I mean, that's a pretty important element to a quality team here in Utah. So, yeah, I think it's important. I think that, just being able to interact with the coach sometimes and say, hey, you know what, Majera's taught us this. How come you guys aren't doing it? Or why have you forgotten to play defense? Or why do you play a pick and roll like that? Because I've thought that many, many times over the last number of years. What are we doing? Why aren't we trapping that pick? Or why isn't Loner playing more just because he's so aggressive on the defensive end? Let him play more. Let him just get out there and kind of set a tone or whatever the case might be. And, I think with Alex, it's not that Alex has to listen to what we're saying, but Alex is confident enough that if we were to say that, he'd probably say, okay, thanks for your input. And then if it worked for his team, he would try it. And if it didn't work for his team, then he wouldn't worry about it. So, I just think there's a lot of help that can be provided by former players.
Speaking of former players, and you mentioned him, Andre Miller, I think there's been a lot of buzz about him potentially joining Alex Jensen as an assistant coach on the staff. What are you hearing on that, and what do you think Andre would bring in that role?
Obviously, you never know for sure what's going to happen until the contract gets signed. I believe that Andre is very interested. I think it's a matter that's sort of similar to what Alex is going through. He's got some responsibilities he's got to take care of, and once those responsibilities are taken care of, then he can focus on what's next. And so the timing on that might not be what everybody wants, but if he wants to come, it's not going to be for another couple of weeks anyway, so everybody needs to just take it easy and wait. And what does he bring? I mean, imagine if you're a point guard on the West Coast somewhere, and Andre Miller shows up and tells you, you know what, I think you have a pretty good skill set. I think I could really help you and develop you as a fine point guard and get you into the NBA. What kid is not going to be excited, ecstatic, over the moon over that visit? And
Josh.
and then it's amazing how you see all these YouTube videos of these great pros who have said, Andre Miller was my mentor.
Or he was the smartest guy on the court, all these things.
Yeah, just a smart guy. And so I think that that's something that is always helpful is when you have a high level of intelligence on a team, it takes you to another level.
Josh Grant, University of Utah, great. Love these insights. Josh, we appreciate you giving us a couple more minutes again as we figure this thing out and as it gets going and you start to hear more about how the recruiting stuff goes. And it's going to be interesting to see how this thing builds up over the next year and see what this University of Utah team can do to return to greatness. We appreciate you joining us on the program again, Josh, and we'll talk to you again.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Josh.
I love that he's just – I love it. He's like, I'll argue with my whole teammates about how this thing should be done.
And again, I'm going to say it. Alumni matters.
Oh, yeah.
Everywhere you go, especially if you have a great tradition, why not lean on those guys? Look, you don't have to hire them. You don't have to do – like I know a lot of alumni think that, there's been alumni that feel entitled to getting assistant coaching jobs or whatever better opportunity because of what they did. That's not what I'm talking about. Like you need to lean on your alumni for a lot of different reasons. And any of these schools that don't, what are you doing?
I know.
Why are you not tapping into that resource? And they gave so much to your program. You need to treat them a certain way until they're not here anymore. Because you owe it to them because they gave you everything they had.
For all the things that Bronco Mendenhall was really, really good at, that was one thing that got flipped around. Like everyone was like, I mean, there were so many people who were just the alumni were cut off in a lot of ways, and that wasn't a point of emphasis. It wasn't. I don't think it was Bronco had anything personal against anybody. He was like, no, I'm just gonna. We're gonna shut the doors.
Didn't want it. He was laser focused on football.
This is our thing. Yeah, and if you weren't in the program anymore,
he also wasn't like at that time. Like, why do I need to worry about having NFL scouts here? That's not my focus. That doesn't help me.